Hi, I'm Alison from Alison's Astrology, and I'm here to talk to you today about the week beginning Sunday, the 10th of November. So this week begins with Venus moving from Sagittarius into Capricorn, and Capricorn's a serious placement for Venus. In this sign, she works hard and she's quietly ambitious. She values tradition and the idea of standing on your own two feet. So Venus, remember, is about our relationships, about our value systems. It's about what we desire. And in Capricorn, Venus desires to, it sees the long term. It's for the sort of work hard now for gratification in the future. And she's also focused on her duties and responsibilities too, to both family and the sort of society around her. And she expects in the long term a reward for her efforts, something just for the effort that she's put in. So this is the first planet for a while first inner planet anyway, to venture into an earth sign. And so it merits a bit of attention. In this sense, Venus is a prophet paving the way for the winter months of Capricorn and Aquarius ahead. And these in the Northern Hemisphere, of course, they're cold months. We feel like hibernating. We all want soup for lunch every day. And traditionally, these are times when life is really pared back to its bones. Another Capricorn Saturn theme, actually, the bones of something, really down to the essentials. What is really important? And that's what Venus asks here. And currently, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, who's still retrograde in Pisces. And he's been there for a while, trying to lay down the foundations for his dreams in this watery world and kind of make things real for himself. But it's proving probably hard work. But there is, however, a spiritual, even shamanic side to Saturn in Pisces. And it's going to filter through to this Venus as we really consider what's important in our relationships and in our value systems. Is there sufficient depth, for instance? Is there sufficient commitment? Are we addressing our real world problems? Capricorn loves real world problems. Maybe we're now looking for something sharper and more defined in our relationships because, when Venus was in Sagittarius, it was all about having fun, really. There's a lot of the party animal about that and about sort of the big ideas and looking to the future. Well, Capricorn's about making those really happen in our actual material world. And this becomes even more kind of marked as Saturn is stationing and is about to turn direct at the end of the week. So on Tuesday, the 12th of November, Mercury squares that stationing Saturn, actually, and that's still in Sagittarius Mercury, so that fire sign with the big vision and the big ideas. And it squares at 12 degrees of Sagittarius and Pisces, respectively. So it's a fleeting transit, but it's going to repeat again twice because Mercury turns retrograde at the end of the month. So it's important to note it, actually. It's a fleeting transit in which both planets are currently ruled by Jupiter, retrograde in Gemini. Jupiter is about our expansion, but retrograde, not so much. It's about rethinking and exploring. In Gemini, the themes of communication and gathering information, if you like. And they're confronted a little bit by the confusion or wishful thinking or the dreams that Saturn in Pisces is trying to kind of formulate and make concrete and make real. So we may be attempting to draw boundaries here and create some clarity around our future options, but for some reason that's just not proving possible right now. The sort of trilogy of aspects will end at the end of December before the new year, but Jupiter continues retrograde until February. So it's best to see this probably as a reflective period when we're gathering information or reviewing our position, and there'll be time for the real decisions later. And that's still around this 12 degrees of the mutable signs of, that's Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So if you've got angles or planets in those mutable signs, that's going to be important. On the 15th of November, Saturn stations finally direct in Pisces at that 12 degrees, just before the full moon, on the same day as the full moon, in fact. And stationing planets, remember, especially the bigger heavyweight planets, are really just like a thumb sort of pressing down on that degree. So that's going to fall at a particular place in your chart, and just have a look and see if you've got moon, sun, ascendant, making any squares or conjunctions when they're together in the chart to that degree. And this could be especially important for you, and it will emphasize the area of life in which it falls. So for that, you need to look up your houses, perhaps on astro.com. Saturn highlights responsibilities and frameworks. It likes real life situations in the real world. And these may have been weighing heavily on us. But once the planet turns direct, things should slowly start to improve as we begin to integrate and understand what we have to do and turn it into our everyday. And maybe we actually realize that what we actually need to do is to reframe something so it doesn't seem so onerous and such a sort of heavy responsibility, but can actually seem like an opportunity or a challenge that, we relish. And maybe when we start thinking about it a little bit more like that, it becomes easier to live with. And later on that Friday, there's a full moon at 24 degrees of Taurus. So Taurus is again about stability. It's about the senses. It's very much in the material world. And normally a Taurus full moon offers us a certain stability, because that's what Taurus likes best, to know where it is in the concrete, real reality that we can touch or smell or see, for that matter. But this full moon is next to Uranus, which is a planet of sudden change and unexpected curveballs. And the full moon, of course, is opposed to a Scorpio sun, which is all sensitivity, emotional depth, penetrating understanding, and also a tendency with Scorpio for upheaval and transformation, the ability to sort of come out of something and change and transform. And Taurus can be about what is mine, what I'm building and what I'm holding on to, while Scorpio is much more about what we share and what do we own together. Scorpio can also be about inheritance. And these themes may well appear in the realms of personal or shared finance or property, and maybe our value systems too. And sometimes those do end up being one and the same thing. With the moon and the sun in fixed signs, Taurus and Scorpio, both fixed signs, there's the idea of holding on to what's known and solid with Taurus, opposing the idea of emotional stability in Scorpio. Uranus might throw something unexpected into that mix. And as always, a full moon is the culmination of a cycle. So something has to give, it has to shift or be let go of. That letting go is very important with a full moon. And it might be something that we're deeply attached to. And it doesn't have to be a material thing. It can be an idea, values, or even ways of approaching something. But there's always the idea at the culmination of a cycle of something having been completed and us needing to shed in order to take that step forward. And if Uranus is coming in, it might just slice through everything and just knock us sideways anyway. So could be good, could be bad, but it's not something we can really predict. So clues to the nature of the kind of change that we might experience could be found in the awkward relationship between the moon ruler, which is Venus in Capricorn, and the sun ruler, which is Mars in Leo. And Mars is focusing on its own wants and needs and what he can bring to the party, me. And Venus is acutely aware of her responsibilities and the limits imposed by the situation she finds herself in. And those need to somehow marry up. So these planets represent drives within each of our psyches. But of course, in the outer world, they can manifest as people or real life occurrences, which we're forced to try and reconcile and come to terms with. And again, how Uranus impacts the mix is anyone's guess, because the essence is the unpredictable. So at this time of the full moon, Venus is also square the nodes. Now, the nodes are the intersection of the path of the sun with the path of the moon. And although these points have no intrinsic energy of their own, they're seen as sensitive points. The moon, the marriage between the sun and moon, and that's often a point that's concerned with destiny. So Venus here is trying to balance these nodal points. and trying to balance what has come before the South Node with how we move forward the North Node, and to put it within a social framework and to integrate it into our responsibilities and our daily life, our ambitions, and what we're aiming for. And this mirrors, in a way, the themes of our personal wants and needs, perhaps being at odds with those of relationship. And the key with Venus is always to negotiate and seek compromise. So there are actually lots of planets changing direction between now and May 2025, and I'll probably keep repeating this. It might feel like a winter of endurance, in fact, but again, that idea of reframing how you see it and of just biding your time, exploring things, doing what needs to be done until you can really see the way forward in the spring. That could be useful, actually. So instead of sinking into that Saturnine sort of Eeyore soup of moroseness, you can take strength from the idea that you've been given the gift of this time to adjust and reconsider and to sort out what you really need to do. And also from the thought that you will feel much freer in the spring and probably more certain by next May. So join me next week when Pluto leaves Capricorn and ingresses. That means moves into Aquarius, where it stays for the next 20 years. This is a big deal. And the Sun moves into Sagittarius for the Christmas party season. Okay, see you next week.